I think crying over spilt milk would have put the Big 12 in a huge bind. Had they just sat there and pouted and, well, let's take Texas in front of the governor and let's Oklahoma State, let's bring Oklahoma in, have to sit down and talk to, politicians. Like, everybody's realized, hey, it is what it is. There's nothing stopping it, really. Let them go, and let's go get who we can to make ourselves the best that we can. And they did that, and now as a result of it, they very well may survive a bit longer just simply because of those moves made. Had they not done that, I mean, I don't know what we're talking about right now for the Big 12. Well, certainly not having a neck-and-neck, if not better, TV deal potentially than the Pac, which they now will, could, should have, depending on, what tweet you want to look at or what person you want to listen to. But I think it's clear today who's on a little bit stronger ground. But like I said earlier, it's not like today's move by the Big Ten that is going to net all these teams major money is just that's the end of it. It's like, okay, now everybody's done and all the musical chairs stop. No, the music's still playing, and there's still, more chairs to pull away. We just, don't know when that music's going to stop. And, the last two times that it's happened have been complete shocks. 2 summers ago with OU Texas, and then a few months ago with, or I guess it was, technically
summer
2 summers. Last summer, this summer. Who knows what that next move will be, but it's fascinating.
Well, and look, the Big 12 tried that the last time. Ken Starr tried to sue to keep everybody in place, and, that was it was a bump in the road. I mean, all it was on the way out the door. It's just something they had to deal with, but it didn't stop them.
I mean, if they try, they're like 0-6 trying to stop any teams from moving at this point in the Big 12. Yeah. So we're going to go 0-8 trying to stop OU and Texas, the most powerful of brands, from doing that. Like, that wasn't going to happen, and they weren't going to make a move if there was any chance that, Bob Bowlesby could, finagle some legal deal to where it's not permissible for. I mean, that was never going to happen.
No, he all he was doing was trying to. I don't think he was really trying to keep him. I think he was trying to illustrate what they had wrought. Like,
right, but even if he wanted to, he would have been pointless in the long run. It would have been a waste of money, waste of time, and they would have probably missed out on that open window they had to go and grab brands that I'm sure, the Pac would have explored. I still see some of their writers, I say they, I don't mean it that way, but those who cover the Pac-12 bring up Houston as a possibility. I really wish I would have asked Joseph Duarte about that yesterday, because that seems like the most ridiculous. You're finally in a conference with these teams that are in your state, and you're going to move to the Pac-12? Why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I've seen that more than once now, and I just don't understand how that makes any sense. And the only way it does is because it's not for money, clearly. Either way, it's not for money. But you're finally in a conference where you can play Baylor and Tech and TCU on a regular basis, Oklahoma State. You got some of your buddies from the American that are joining you, some of the better programs out of there. And you're going to go out west just to be the only Texas team? Is that the pull?
Yeah.
Is that the draw? Because that's not the draw. That would be the opposite of a draw. I want to stay closer to home and just go to Waco and have more fans there rather than, hey, let's go to Seattle. I mean, fun road trip, but how many Houston fans are going to do that on a regular basis versus going to Lubbock or Fort Worth or Waco? You know what I mean? So, I don't really buy that too much, but if the Big 12 doesn't make that move last summer, it would have been really interesting to see what the Pac would have potentially explored. Because I doubt they're going against Cincinnati or UCF. Yeah. That's just way too far out. But BYU, obviously, some people maintain that wouldn't have mattered because they're just not going to be accepted by those schools. So maybe it just would have been exactly the way that it is right now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I think there's a lot of people.
Houston, though.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that also believe, though, that because the way the Big 12 was initially formed, that A&M and Texas couldn't go in different directions.
Right.
Because there was the thought that Texas wanted to join the Pac then, and A&M wanted to be in the SEC then, but the governor and the lieutenant governor, Ann Richards and Bob Bullock, intervened and said, you guys aren't going anywhere without Baylor and Tech, and the Big 12, and you're not going to get anywhere without each other. Well, that was kind of a one-shot deal, because once that happened, believe me when I tell you that power brokers at every institution made sure that they could make their own decisions down the line and that the governor couldn't get in the way.
Yeah.
So, that was a one-shot deal. It happened, but at the end of it, believe me, A&M knew when they made the decision that they could go to the SEC and nobody could stop them, and that any kind of lawsuit or anything you want to throw out there was just going to be lip service to the fact that they were leaving. So Yeah, the same thing with UCLA. Like, they knew what they were doing, and the people who there were regents that knew what they were doing, but they're the ones who know how the athletic department works. The problem with UCLA and the University of California is it's not just regents for that school and the University and Cal Berkeley. It's like 15 schools.
To sum it up, I basically saw a good tweet about this, and I can't find it now. I was looking for it, but it was basically at the interest level in the meeting last night, and it was like Cal saying, yeah, how dare you do this? And it was UCLA saying, we want to leave. And then it was like literally every other UC school, like UC, San Mateo or, UC every one of them, every little outlet was like, we don't care, 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 we don't care. Nobody cares, basically, outside of Cal about the meeting. So I expect everything to move forward as is. And the only question's really now we've seen a TV deal. Like, I don't know about you. I'm not so caught up in the numbers game of this.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't care. I'm seeing a lot of people bogged down on like the specifics of that. And hey, they're going to make a boatload of money. They're going to make more than anybody else makes. And the SEC will match or top that in a few years, I'm sure. And then the Big Ten will up it again in their new deal. But I guess before the SEC even gets to do that potentially. And everybody's going to make well over $100 million in due time. And beyond that, I really do not care how much these schools make.
And the thing is, the question remains, for me, one, if you're the Pac-12, how do you stay together knowing that there's nothing in this TV deal that prevents the Big Ten from
what do they do, dude?
At any second. Yeah, what do you do? Like,
did we sign a 4-year deal or like 7-year deal to line up perfectly with an expiring deal? And that's just basically saying like we're going to just do this until our death, basically. And that's what you'd acknowledge.
Yeah, because there's even then, like, if you're somebody who really wants that league to call you, why would you get into grant of rights almost at all? If you're really hoping for that. Now, these schools may not want that at all, but that's naive to think that. But like, if you really wanted the Big Ten to call you, if you're Oregon and Washington, Stanford, Cal, if you're those 4 schools and really hope that they call, why sign a deal?
Yeah.
And this is why I thought that, there's like the kind of scale of, yes, maybe the Pac-12 is fortunate that they can get a TV deal done. The Big 12 has already kind of solidified who they are and what they're going to be, and they have more time. So, yeah, the Pac-12 might have the advantage of getting a deal done. But, again, when this one is announced, and there's nothing that says the Big 10 is like, we're going to stay at 16 teams until the end of this TV deal.
No.
In 2030, we'll have that. No. We have escalator clauses that say at any time we could do that. It would make me nervous if I'm any conference with an expiring deal, even the Big 12.
There's a quote from Kevin Warren I just saw a second ago that basically says that he's proud to be disrupting college athletics. So, here we go. This is from The Athletic, I think. I'm looking forward to changing the landscape of college athletics and all of sports forever. Today will be the first step in the direction to allow us to continually disrupt the industry in a positive manner. That was Kevin Warren speaking on the media rights package. So, the disruption is not over by a long shot. I guess my only question, to move on from the Pac-12, is if Cal's calling this meeting, isn't Cal one of those teams that has been debated about being a team that could move to the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
Ben,
there's clearly not clear communication going on in the system about what could be or what is or what maybe is just pure rumor, I guess.
And Ben mentioned that somebody's like, well, why don't we just go join too? And they're like, well, they've got to want you.
Yeah.
It's not a membership on a website. It's not a Netflix subscription.
But they're sitting there fighting this, and I don't know. It sounds like they need to communicate a little bit more about what's going on there behind closed doors, and not so much like, worrying about Gavin Newsom saying something, because, how do you not know that behind the scenes they're not making the same move? So you're fighting a move that you might make in I don't know, some amount of time yourself. Yeah. Or maybe they have no chance of making that move. And they have every reason to want to fight this to no avail, basically. But, I'm fascinated to see how the Pac now moves forward, because now they're on the clock, so to speak, because this deal's done. There was this waiting to see what networks and what streaming service and what this or what that. Is ESPN really not going to be involved? Okay, well, no, they're not involved. The streaming service is only Peacock, right?
Yeah.
So that leaves some things open for other schools, other conferences as well. So, ball's in your court, Kleofkoff. I know they've already had the ball in their court for a little while, and it, started the process, but now we will see. We will see what the networks think the Pac-12 in its current state is worth, and how somehow or another they're able to keep the whole thing tied together. But what is there potentially in that deal that allows everything to open back up if and when it needs to for a couple of schools in particular?
I wonder now that the escalator clause exists in the Big Ten contract, if the Pac-12 will probably try to put the same thing in if they sign one. The Big 12 absolutely should.
Yeah, they should.
In that they would seem to me to be the most likely because, while the Big Ten could choose to expand, the good news, bad news for the Big 12 is that they've got all these schools that are kind of in the middle of what the Big Ten would want or the SEC would want. They're not exactly that. Like, you can make arguments for anything, but, you can also make, if there's 5 arguments for, there's 5 arguments against the Big Ten adding Oklahoma State, right? So it's kind of a wash for the Big Ten. So that's where the Big 12 to me is kind of an interesting position of power, is because there are 3 to 4 schools that are much more desirable to the Big Ten than they would be at this point. You can sit there and be like, okay, but, we love what we are and we love who we're going to be, but we also have to admit that, we know that Oregon and Washington and Stanford and Notre Dame will get calls before we do.
Right.
So we can go kind of make our deal knowing that we're only going to get interfered with when everybody of them would say absolutely no. And then they also know,
well, kind of like
other than Notre Dame, who's going to say no?
Kind of like the USC. Who was that? The USC. I don't think it was the president, but whoever put the kibosh on the Pac-12 expansion. No, we're good where we are. And then 2 months later, we're going to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
What was you know what I'm talking about though? Yeah. That scenario that played out. But yeah, if you're Oregon's at any moment you feel like they could bolt if they get the phone calls. If you're Arizona, do you want to be proactive and feel like, hey, this boat's sinking. It's only a matter of time until it sinks. We better go grab that life raft that we see. Or do you no, we're going to patch this thing up. Sure, Oregon, you've got the best glue ever. Yeah, we'll wait on you. And then they just go swipe that life raft and take off with it to leave you to go to go to the deep end. I mean, that's the political game I guess people are having to play, right? Mac Rhodes comes on here and talks about how strong the Big 12 is, but at the same time, he's got to be sitting there looking behind his back at all times to, make sure that Texas Tech's not trying to sneak out the back door to whatever conference. It wouldn't be the Pac at this point. I don't know why you would leave a Texas, alliance to go to the Pac, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Keep one eye on everybody, I guess, is kind of what you still have to do if you're a majority of these schools.
And look, the conferences have already spoken with each other, and they feel at this time a merger is not necessary. I do wonder if this changes that tune.
I wouldn't be surprised, if the Pac is calling up Brett Yormark today.
If they're like, hey, you know how before, now that we've seen this and there's escalator clauses and we're doing a TV deal and you guys are going to do one after us, let's do a TV deal together. What do you say? It'd be fun, right? You guys are fun. We like you.
Yeah.
We've never said anything bad about you at all ever, and you us. It's just if that maybe doesn't get brought back up because the reality of this money has changed. So how do you, again, you're not going to get $75 million a year if you're the Pac-12 or Big 12. You're not getting that money. But how do you get to 50 or 60 overall to where the gap isn't so big? That's the goal. Because you can't, Brett Yormark, as much as we may like him and a great negotiator as he may be, he can't just walk in and go, our starting point is $70 million, and I walk out the door every time you say a number with a 6 in front of it. He can't do that.
Right.
So, they're not in that kind of bargaining position, and neither is George Clooney.